before the preacher stood at the pulpit, before doctrine had definition, before the church had walls and the prophets wore mantles, there was a man beneath the stars, harp in hand, dust on his robe, and fire in his bones. His name was David, and like David, the book of Psalms is not neat. It's not always tidy. It doesn't always rhyme with our expectations, but it is honest. It is aching. It is raw worship and real warfare. Psalms is the journal of the soul. It is what you whisper in the dark when no one else understands. It is the cry of the guilty, the hope of the forgiven, the warfare of the tired, and the song of the delivered. Have you ever wept with no words, just groans, waited on God longer than you thought you could bear, danced one day and felt despair the next? Then you've lived in the pages of Psalms. This book is a sanctuary for the overwhelmed, a compass for the lost, and a mirror for the human soul. It is the place where questions meet glory and pain meets promise. David wrote some of these words with a sword in his hand. Others he wrote in hiding, in caves on run, and still others in the palace, surrounded by gold but haunted by guilt. But it wasn't just David. The book of Psalms is a chorus of voices. David the king, and Asaph the worship leader, and the sons of Korah, descendants of rebellion who became priests of praise. Even Moses, yes, the prophet of deliverance, wrote Psalm 90. Different people, different places, different pain, but one unshakable God. This is not just a devotional, it's a pilgrimage. In these life lessons you will, and walk through groaning valleys and see the God who stays, on ascend to mountaintop praises, and learn the strength of joy. Watch tears become weapons. Watch silence become holy ground. Watch lament become the soil where legacy is born. You'll learn how to worship when the sword is still drawn, how to wait when the answer hasn't come, how to trust when the oil has dried up, and how to dance again when joy returns at dawn. The book of Psalms doesn't promise a painless life, but it does reveal a present God, a God who draws near to the brokenhearted, who counts your tears, who remembers mercy and wrath, and who, even in silence, is writing a song through your suffering. So now we ask, can your soul still sing when the storm hasn't stopped? Can you write your praise while hiding in a cave? Can you lift your hands while justice is delayed? If the answer is yes, welcome. If the answer is no, still welcome. Because this journey is for the real, the raw, and the ready to return to God. Let the lessons begin. Let the heart heal. Let the voice rise again. This is Psalms. This is where God meets us in every emotion, and this is where you find your voice again. The way of the righteous, the cry of the broken, and the God who sees. He does not walk with the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit with the scornful. The first lesson in Psalms is not what to do, but what not to do. It's about steps you never take, places you never pause, chairs you never rest in. The blessed life starts by drawing lines, by saying, I will not walk with what darkens my light. This blessed man is not blessed by luck or applause or followers. He is blessed because his delight is in the law of the Lord, not duty, not religion, delight. His joy isn't found in headlines or hashtags. It's found in the whispers of heaven that speak from the ancient scrolls. And because he is rooted in that word, he is like a tree, not a wild bush, not a tumbling leaf, a tree, planted by waters that never dry. When drought comes, he doesn't die. When storms rage, he doesn't break. His roots go deep, too deep for fear to uproot. In season, he bears fruit. Out of season, he still stands. Because stability isn't about what's above the ground, it's about what's hidden beneath. But the wicked, they are not so. They are like chaff, dust that the wind drives away. Their power is loud but hollow. Their rise is fast but fragile. Their path ends in ruin, because God watches the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Then the scene changes. We are no longer under a tree. We are in the middle of rage and rebellion. Nations are rising, kings are plotting. The earth is loud with threats. But heaven? Heaven laughs, because while men plan, God has already established his king on Zion. He says, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you." The power of God is not panicked. It is patient. He gives warning to kings and refuge to the humble. Blessed are all who take refuge in him, not in their army, not in their plans, in him. And now David speaks, not from a throne, but from a place of fear. He cries out, "Lord, how many are my foes?" Enemies multiply, but so does grace. David's fear does not stop him from sleeping. Why? Because the Lord sustains him. He sleeps not because the danger is gone, but because his trust is rooted deeper than his problems. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. What kind of soul says that when surrounded? A soul anchored in something stronger than circumstance. He says, "You are my glory and the lifter of my head." Not his reputation, not his status, the Lord. When your head drops, when shame pulls you low, God himself lifts you up. David continues, "Answer me when I call," he says. "You gave me relief in distress." Do you hear that? The past becomes proof that God will act again. He says, "Be angry, but do not sin. Ponder in your hearts on your beds and be silent." Stillness becomes sacred. Silence becomes strength. In peace he lies down and sleeps, for the Lord alone makes him dwell in safety. Not guards, not gates. God. But what of the godless? What of those who lie and deceive and destroy? Psalm 5 becomes a fire in David's mouth. He says, "You are not a God who delights in wickedness. The boastful shall not stand before you." But then he whispers, "But I, through the abundance of your steadfast love, will enter your house." He doesn't come by merit, he comes by mercy. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness. Make your way straight before me. He knows he cannot walk straight without guidance. He pleads for clarity, not comfort, direction, not detours. Then he groans. Psalm 6 is not polished, it is raw. He says, "I am languishing, my bones are troubled. I flood my bed with tears." This is not kingly strength, it is kingly honesty. And in this vulnerability, God does not withdraw, he draws closer. "The Lord has heard the sound of my weeping, your tears speak." When you have no words, your tears translate. Heaven reads weeping like prayer. David cries, "Depart from me, all you workers of evil," not because he is arrogant, but because he is anchored. He knows who his God is, and that God sees, that God listens, that God answers. Then he pleads again, "Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God." Not with diplomacy, with desperation. He says, "You break the teeth of the wicked." That's not gentle language. That's the cry of someone who has tasted injustice and now trusts God to fight. Salvation belongs to the Lord, not to horses, not to kings, not to empires, to the Lord. In Psalm 8, David lifts his eyes. The sky above him glows with stars, and he wonders, "What is man that you are mindful of him?" Have you ever stood in the night, looked at the galaxy and felt small? That's David here. And yet, God crowns humanity with glory and honor. He places the works of his hands beneath our care. What kind of love is this, that the God who made the stars also names you worthy of dominion? Then the theme shifts again. Psalm 9 sings of justice. The Lord sits enthroned forever. He judges the world with righteousness. He is a refuge for the oppressed, not once, not sometimes, always. And those who know his name put their trust in him. He does not forsake those who seek him. In a world that abandons easily, God remains near. In a time when loyalty is rare, his faithfulness is still fierce. Psalm 10 ends this part with a groan. "Why, O Lord, do you stand far off?" David is not pretending he feels forgotten. The wicked prosper, the poor suffer. The arrogant mock God. But even in this lament, David is honest enough to hope. He says, "But you do see. You note mischief and vexation, that you may take it into your hands." God sees what men hide. He remembers what they bury. He hears the desire of the afflicted. He strengthens the heart. He inclines his ear, and he does justice for the fatherless and the oppressed. the God who searches hearts and shelters the crushed. In the quiet of midnight prayers and the tremble of troubled feet, David whispers from the depths, "In the Lord I take refuge. How can you say to my soul, 'Flee like a bird to your mountain'?" Fear told him to run, but faith taught him to rest. When the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? They can trust still, because the Lord is in his holy temple. His throne is not shaken by the chaos on earth. He tests the righteous, not to break them, but to reveal them. And what of the wicked? Fire and sulfur, a scorching wind. It sounds harsh until you've stood in the shoes of the oppressed and cried for justice. The Lord is righteous, he loves righteous deeds, and the upright shall behold his face. That is hope, that is home. Psalm 12 shifts to a new ache. "Save, O Lord," David pleads. For the godly one is gone, the faithful have vanished. He feels surrounded by flattery and empty words, by lips that lie and tongues that twist. But the Lord will rise. He will protect the poor and the needy. His words are not like theirs. They are pure, refined like silver, 7 times over. When everyone else speaks in deception, God's word remains a fortress of truth. Then David mourns again. "How long, O Lord?" That cry has echoed through centuries. "How long must I wrestle with thoughts and have sorrow in my heart? How long will you hide your face?" But the psalm doesn't end there. The pain shifts mid-sentence. "But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation." Pain doesn't silence praise. It gives it a new voice. Even in sorrow, David sings. Psalm 14 looks out at the world and sees decay. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." Corruption is not hidden. It walks in daylight. But the Lord looks down from heaven, searching for those who seek him. It's not about perfection. It's about pursuit. God is not absent. He is with the generation of the righteous. Though the wicked mock, the Lord is their refuge. Salvation will come. David then declares something deeper than good behavior. "O Lord, who shall dwell in your tent? Who shall live on your holy hill?" Not the religious, but the real. He who walks blamelessly, speaks truth in his heart, does not slander, does not change his mind when it costs him. This isn't about robes or rituals. It's about integrity when no one is watching. Whoever does these things shall never be moved. Then, a song of security rises in Psalm 16. "Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge," not in systems, not in safety nets. David says, "I have no good apart from you. His portion is the Lord. His cup overflows not from possessions but presence. Even in the night the Lord instructs him. Even in the dark he is not alone. He says, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. Joy fills his heart. Security anchors his soul. And eternity glows with promise. You will not abandon my soul to Sheol. You make known to me the path of life." Psalm 17 is a plea wrapped in intimacy. "Hear a just cause, O Lord. Attend to my cry." David is not putting on a performance. He invites divine inspection. "You have tried my heart, tested me, and found nothing." He asks for protection, not from discomfort, but from destruction. He cries, "Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings." Even when enemies encircle, the Lord surrounds better. Others may feast now, but David looks higher. "When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness." And then thunder rolls through Psalm 18. This is not a whisper, it is a war cry. "I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, fortress, deliverer. He is my shield and horn of salvation." David remembers the day he called, and God answered, but not gently. The earth shook, the heavens bowed, smoke rose, coals flamed. God didn't just hear, he moved. He reached from on high, drew him out of deep waters, rescued him because he delighted in him. The Lord rewarded him for his righteousness, not sinless perfection, but loyal devotion. David speaks of God's justice and mercy wrapped in fire and deliverance. "With you I can run against a troop," he says. "With my God I can leap over a wall." The Lord trains his hands for war, enlarges his steps beneath him. preserves him in battle, gives him the necks of enemies. David sings, not because of his own strength, but because of the one who secures his victory. Then comes the sky-drenched beauty of Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Creation preaches louder than pulpits. The sun rises like a bridegroom from his chamber, joyful, radiant, unstoppable. Then David moves from the stars to the scriptures. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. His precepts are right, his commands are pure, more to be desired than gold, sweeter than honey. They warn, they reward, and then David prays, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight." He knows external obedience means little without internal alignment. And finally, in this section, Psalm 20, a prayer for battle. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May he send help from the sanctuary. May he grant your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. But David is clear. His confidence is not in chariots or horses. Some trust in those. But we trust in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse. We rise. They are brought to their knees. We stand upright. Because the battle is not just against flesh and blood, it's spiritual, and so is the victory. When enemies multiply and strength fails, God still holds the crown. The heart of the king beats loudly in Psalm 21, not from fear, but from fulfillment. David rejoices in the Lord's strength. He praises not the victory itself, but the one who gave it. You have given him his heart's desire. You set a crown of fine gold upon his head. It was never about his might. It was always grace. Honor didn't come from men, but from God. And though enemies plotted, they failed because God turned their plans backward. The lesson here is unshakable. When God lifts you, no enemy can overthrow you. But in Psalm 22, the tone shifts. My God, why have you forsaken me? A familiar cry, a holy echo. These are the very words Jesus would later groan on the cross. David feels pierced, mocked, surrounded. He says, "They divide my garments, cast lots for my clothing. Prophecy and pain dance together." And yet, he says, "You are holy, even in anguish, even in abandonment." David looks ahead and sees worship rising from every corner of the earth. All the ends of the world shall remember and turn to the Lord. Pain has a purpose. Even suffering will become a song. And what starts with why ends with he has done it. Then Psalm 23. Oh, Psalm 23, the shepherd psalm, the anthem of comfort, the whisper in hospital rooms, the strength in funerals, the light in lonely nights. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He leads me through valleys, not around them, but through. Even in the shadow of death, I fear no evil, not because the valley isn't deep, but because he is with me. His rod defends, his staff guides. He anoints my head with oil, my cup overflows. And goodness and mercy don't just visit me, they chase me all the days of my life. Psalm 24 follows like thunder after calm. Lift up your heads, O gates. Be lifted, ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King? The Lord strong and mighty. He enters not just the temple, but the heart that opens wide. There's no room for pride. Who may ascend the hill of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. This is not performance, it's purity. Seek him, lift the gates, let the King in. Then the cry of Psalm 25 rises, to you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. David asks for guidance, for mercy, for remembering, not the sins of his youth, not the failures, but his love. Good and upright is the Lord, therefore he instructs sinners in the way. Even when we fail, he still teaches. Even when we stumble, he still keeps covenant. He confides in those who fear him. He brings secrets into the soul of the surrendered. Psalm 26 carries the theme of integrity. Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. David asks to be examined, tested, tried. His love for God is not skin deep, it's rooted. He says, I wash my hands in innocence and go around your altar, proclaiming thanksgiving aloud. The house of the Lord is his joy, not because it's perfect, but because its presence. He says, redeem me, be gracious to me. My foot stands on level ground. Even when the world tilts, God holds him upright. Psalm 27 sings courage. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. One thing David asks, not victory, not wealth, but this, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon his beauty, to inquire in his temple. When trouble rises, God hides him. When enemies close in, God lifts him high. David seeks not escape, but encounter. And even when he cries, do not forsake me, he ends with, wait for the Lord, be strong. The lesson is bold, courage is born in communion. Psalm 28 echoes the language of plea. To you, O Lord, I call my rock, be not deaf to me. If God is silent, David feels like one going down to the pit. He lifts his hands toward the holy sanctuary, and again, God answers. The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts, and I am helped. The heart leaps with joy. The voice breaks into praise. The shepherd not only defends, he carries his people forever. Then Psalm 29. David doesn't speak of enemies, he speaks of majesty. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The voice of the Lord breaks cedars, thunder rolls, lightning strikes, mountains tremble, the wilderness shakes. And yet in his temple, all cry glory. The storm doesn't silence worship, it amplifies it, because the Lord sits enthroned above the flood, and he gives strength to his people. He blesses them with peace. Finally, Psalm 30, a psalm for the morning after the night. David says, I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up. His enemies didn't rejoice over him. God brought him up from Sheol. And then the anthem every broken soul knows, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. God turned his mourning into dancing, his sackcloth into gladness, so his soul won't be silent. He will give thanks forever. When you're surrounded but not surrendered, trust still wins. Psalm 31 opens like a desperate prayer whispered behind closed doors. In you, O Lord, do I take refuge. Deliver me in your righteousness. David pleads, not from pride but from pressure. His soul is in distress. His bones grow weak. I am a reproach to my neighbors. I've become like broken pottery. But in the middle of pain comes one of the boldest declarations in Scripture. My times are in your hands. He doesn't just ask for escape, he surrenders the clock. Even when he's surrounded, even when strength fails, David knows the battle is timed by heaven. God is never late. Psalm 32 follows like a healing balm. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. David reflects not on warfare, but on the weight of guilt. He says when he kept silent, his bones wasted away. But when he confessed, freedom rushed in. Forgiveness isn't just a moment, it's a sanctuary. God becomes a hiding place. He says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Grace is not just mercy, it's mentoring. A forgiven man is not a weak man. He is led by divine counsel. Then comes Psalm 33, a song for the righteous. Sing joyfully to the Lord, the psalm begins. Play skillfully, shout for joy. Why? Because the word of the Lord is right. His work is trustworthy. He loves righteousness and justice, and the earth is full of his steadfast love. The lesson here is in perspective. No king is saved by an army. No warrior escapes by strength. But the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. Hope doesn't rest in weapons. It rests in the one who made heaven by his breath. Psalm 34 is David's thank you note to God, written after pretending madness before Abimelech. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth, not just in victory, not just in peace, at all times. He invites the humble to hear and rejoice. He says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Not just know, taste. Experience his nearness. He declares that many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. A broken heart is not ignored. God is near. He redeems the lives of his servants. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned. Psalm 35 is raw warfare. David cries, "Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me." He asks for God to take hold of shield and buckler, rise to his help. Enemies have risen without cause. They repay evil for good. But David doesn't take revenge. He prays. He says, "Let them be put to shame. Let them fall into their own nets." The righteous cry isn't for petty payback. It's for God's justice to speak. He says, "Let them shout for joy who favor my righteous cause. Let the Lord be magnified." Victory here is not selfish, it's sacred. Psalm 36 contrasts wickedness and wonder. There is no fear of God before their eyes. The words of the wicked are trouble and deceit. But then David pivots. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, his faithfulness to the clouds, righteousness like mighty mountains, judgments like the great deep. People take refuge in the shadow of his wings. They feast from his abundance, and with him is the fountain of life. In his light we see light. It's a psalm that reminds us no matter how dark the world, God's love still towers above it. Psalm 37 teaches trust in the face of injustice. Do not fret because of evildoers. They will soon fade like grass. David says, "Trust in the Lord. Do good. Delight in him. Commit your way. Be still. Wait patiently. The wicked may prosper briefly, but their end is sure. The righteous may stumble, but they will never be forsaken. I have been young, and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken." Psalm 37 is wisdom in waiting, a calm heart in chaotic times, a reminder that the meek will inherit the land. Psalm 38 is the cry of guilt again. David says, "There is no soundness in my flesh. Because of my sin, he's bowed down, crushed, groaning all day long. Even friends stay far. His heart throbs, his strength fails, and yet, he says, 'O Lord, all my longing is before you.'" He doesn't mask his weakness, he brings it to God. He says, "I wait for you, O Lord. It is you who will answer. Shame, sorrow, and sin do not disqualify you from seeking. They qualify you to be carried." Psalm 39 continues the confession. David tries to keep silent, but his anguish grows. So he speaks, "Lord, make me to know my end. My days are a few handbreadths. Life is fleeting, man walks like a shadow." And in the face of that brevity, David says, "My hope is in you." He asks God to remove his discipline, for he is consumed by the stroke of his hand. Yet he says, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. I am a sojourner with you." Even in sorrow he clings. Even in discipline he trusts. Psalm 40 is redemption's song. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me. He drew me up from the pit. He set his feet on a rock, put a new song in his mouth, and many will see and fear and trust in the Lord. David declares, "I delight to do your will. Your law is within my heart." He proclaims God's faithfulness in the great assembly. And even when troubles beyond number surround him, he says, "Be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me." What begins in waiting ends in worship. And even while still pleading, David is already praising. Praise in the waiting room, when songs are birthed in silence. Psalm 41 begins with a strange kind of promise, not about kings or wars, but about kindness. Blessed is the one who considers the poor. In a world that honors pride and power, the psalm says, "Mercy is what moves heaven." The Lord delivers such a one in times of trouble. He sustains him on his sickbed. He does not forget the generous when they are the ones in need. Even when friends betray, like David says, "Even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted his heel against me. Still the Lord upholds." Mercy remembers mercy. Psalm 42 opens with longing. As the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants for you, O God. It is not the voice of a man on the mountaintop, but a soul in the valley. He remembers the joy of worship, the sound of crowds, the processions of praise. But now, only tears are his food. And yet, He speaks to himself. Why are you cast down, O my soul? Hope in God. I shall again praise him. This is not denial. It is defiance of despair, a declaration that even when the soul feels dry, praise is coming again. Psalm 43 continues that ache. Vindicate me, O God, the psalmist cries. Why must I go about mourning because of oppression? Send out your light and your truth. Let them lead me. He wants not only rescue but direction, not just escape, but revelation. And again, the refrain. Why are you cast down, O my soul? Hope in God. Repeated pain meets repeated praise. The darkness doesn't silence the song. It teaches the soul how to sing in the dark. Psalm 44 brings us to collective confusion. O God, we have heard with our ears. Our fathers told us what you did in their days, but now you have rejected us. You don't go with our armies. We are like sheep to be slaughtered. This psalm doesn't flinch from questioning. It is the voice of those who trusted and still suffered, and yet it ends with a cry. Rise up, come to our help, redeem us for the sake of your steadfast love. It reminds us, you can be faithful and still feel forgotten, but that doesn't mean you are. Sometimes faith looks like pleading with the God you know is still listening, even in silence. Psalm 45 shifts completely. A royal wedding psalm, a love song, a celebration. You are the most handsome of the sons of men. Grace is poured upon your lips. It praises the king, the bride, the splendor. It is a rare glimpse of joy and royalty in the Psalms. But even here, the lesson is layered. God anoints with the oil of gladness those who love righteousness and hate wickedness. It's not just a celebration. It's a coronation built on character. The throne is upheld by truth, humility, and righteousness. The lesson is this: real beauty, real power, real love. They are rooted in truth. Psalm 46 is power. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Even if the earth gives way, though the mountains fall into the sea, still we do not tremble. Why? Because there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. In chaos there is a current of peace, and the call echoes from heaven. Be still and know that I am God. Not do more, not run harder. Be still. That's where strength begins. The world shakes, but the faithful stay rooted. Psalm 47 is a call to clap, to shout, to celebrate the Most High. God reigns over all the earth. He sits on his holy throne. He subdues nations and lifts his chosen. The psalm is loud with praise, vibrant with joy. It reminds us that worship isn't just a whisper, it's a celebration of sovereignty. When the enemy wants silence, heaven commands a shout. Clap your hands, sing a new song, even when the battle is still raging. Psalm 48 paints Zion like a fortress. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God. Walk around her, count her towers, mark her ramparts. Tell the next generation, this is our God forever and ever. He will guide us. It's a call to remembrance, a faith that tells its children, God brought us this far, and he will not leave us now. Legacy is not built on perfect lives, but on faithful stories. Your praise today becomes someone's strength tomorrow. Psalm 49 goes deep. Why fear the rich or the wicked? They can't ransom their souls. They die like beasts. Their glory fades. But the psalmist says, God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol. This psalm is a reminder that eternity levels everything. Gold rusts. Fame fades. But those who trust in God shine beyond the grave. The lesson? Don't envy what is temporary. Anchor in the eternal. Psalm 50 is God speaking directly. The Mighty One, God the Lord, speaks and summons the earth. He doesn't need bulls or goats. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He says, call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. But to the wicked he says, what right have you to recite my statutes when you hate discipline? The psalm splits the room. True worship isn't in rituals but in relationship. God desires gratitude, obedience and honor, not performance. He weighs the heart behind the hands. Reflection. Are you still singing when no one is watching? Do you still believe when answers feel far? And can your hope hold steady even when joy delays? Then you're learning the rhythm of the Psalms, a rhythm that says, even when I don't feel him, I will still follow. When mercy confronts the mirror, the journey from guilt to grace. Psalm 51 is a cry from the ruins. David, broken by his own choices, doesn't justify, he confesses. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love. He doesn't beg based on merit, but on mercy. He owns every piece of the fall. Against you only have I sinned. No more hiding, no more pretending. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Restore to me the joy of your salvation. The lesson? Repentance is not a trap, it's a door. A holy breaking that makes room for something better than before. And when God restores, he doesn't just forgive, he makes you a voice. Then I will teach transgressors your ways. Psalm 52 confronts the boastful, the man who loves evil more than good. David speaks not out of envy, but discernment. God will break you down forever. Harsh, perhaps, but truth sometimes sounds sharp to those who refuse to turn. And in contrast, David declares, but I am like a green olive tree in the house of God, flourishing not in fame, but in faithfulness. The lesson is clear. Your roots matter more than your reach. 1,000 platforms can't replace a planted soul. Psalm 53 echoes Psalm 14. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. It's not just disbelief, it's a way of life that rejects accountability. They do abominable deeds. There is none who does good. But God looks down, and he sees. He still searches. And even when the world mocks, he whispers, salvation will come out of Zion. The lesson: God's silence isn't absence, it's patience. But judgment always comes, and salvation is always near for those who return. Psalm 54 is a whisper in danger. O God, save me by your name. Strangers rise against me, ruthless men seek my life. David pleads not based on his strength, but God's faithfulness. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. The lesson? You don't have to be strong to be safe. You just need to know who holds you. Psalm 55 reveals betrayal again. It is not an enemy who taunts me, I could bear that, but it is you, my companion, my familiar friend. This one hurts, not from a stranger, but a friend who once walked in the house of God. The lesson is raw. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from familiar hands. But even in betrayal, David says, cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He doesn't promise painless relationships. He promises sustaining grace. Psalm 56 is faith under pressure. David is captured by enemies, and yet he declares, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you, not if, when. Even warriors feel fear. But they don't stay there. He reminds himself, this I know, that God is for me. The lesson: you don't have to fake confidence, just redirect it. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the act of placing it into the hands of the unshakable. Psalm 57 is written in a cave. David is literally hiding, yet he says, my heart is steadfast, O God. How? Because he's not waiting for the cave to disappear. He's worshiping in the midst of it. I will sing, I will give thanks among the peoples. The cave doesn't mute his melody, it sharpens it. The lesson? Where you are doesn't define what God can do. Even in the cave, his glory can rise. Psalm 58 is a sharp psalm of judgment. David calls out the wicked. You speak lies from birth. Your venom is like that of a serpent. He prays for justice to flow, for the righteous to rejoice. This psalm reminds us, God sees injustice, and he is not passive. There will be a reckoning. There will be vindication. The psalm is not vengeful, it's truthful. The righteous may suffer now, but they will see the justice of God. Psalm 59 is another cry for deliverance. Enemies surround David's house, waiting to kill him. But he watches and waits. O my strength, I will watch for you. You are my fortress, though they growl and roam at night. God laughs. The lesson? You are not surrounded when you are shielded. God's walls are higher than their schemes, and his song can still be heard in the dark. Psalm 60 is national lament. Israel is defeated, the land shakes, the banner of God seems torn, and yet David declares, "You have given a banner to those who fear you, that it may be displayed because of the truth." Even in defeat, there is a remnant. Even in collapse, a calling. God speaks from his sanctuary. Through God we shall do valiantly. The lesson? Loss doesn't mean the mission is over. Sometimes it just means the story is shifting. Victory doesn't always come first. It comes next. Reflection. What does your worship sound like in the cave? Do you believe that God still sings over you, even when you're silent? Can you accept that your greatest failures might still be met with his deepest mercy? The God who listens when you feel forgotten but keeps speaking anyway. There are moments when the heavens feel sealed, when you whisper prayers that echo back empty, when the silence of God grows so loud it drowns your courage. But David knew that silence is not the absence of presence, it's the soil of trust. Psalm 61 begins not with shouts but sobs. From the end of the earth I cry to you. When my heart is faint, he doesn't ask to be spared from the storm. He asks to be led to the rock that is higher than him. He remembers, you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the enemy. The lesson? Faith isn't always loud. It's often the whisper that keeps returning. When you can't see the way forward, ask to be lifted, ask to be hidden, ask to be held. Psalm 62 teaches the art of stillness. For God alone my soul waits in silence, not for people, not for outcomes, not for applause or validation, but for God alone. He only is my rock and my salvation. I shall not be shaken, even when people plot, even when riches rise. David knows where stability lives. The lesson? Silence is not weakness, it's the posture of the anchored. The soul that waits for God is the soul that cannot be moved. Psalm 63 is thirst in the wilderness, a hunger that has nothing to do with bread and everything to do with presence. My soul thirsts for you, my flesh faints for you, in a dry and weary land where there is no water. Yet what does David do in the desert? He remembers, he worships, he sings. Because your steadfast love is better than life, the lesson is fierce and freeing. You can still praise when nothing around you has changed. Because worship isn't based on surroundings, it's rooted in who you know. Psalm 64 is a cry for protection from hidden enemies. The whispers, the schemes, the arrows in the dark. David doesn't strike back, he prays forward. Hide me from the secret plots of the wicked, from the throng of evildoers. And he knows God will shoot his arrow at them. The lesson? You don't have to expose every lie. God sees the invisible. He defends the innocent. Let your response be silence, and trust that truth travels faster than whispers. Psalm 65 shifts to praise again. David steps away from battle and into wonder. Praise is due to you, O God. You visit the earth and water it. It's a psalm of abundance, of overflowing grain, softened ridges, crowned years. The lesson is simple but revolutionary. Sometimes the greatest praise is not after deliverance, but in the harvest of ordinary grace. When you look around and realize, he's been faithful even when you forgot to notice. Psalm 66 celebrates what God has done. Come and see what God has done. He is awesome in his deeds. But it doesn't ignore suffering. You tested us. You laid a crushing burden on our backs. Yet you brought us out to a place of abundance. The fire didn't destroy. It refined. The water didn't drown. It delivered. The lesson. Every trial has an after story. Every pressure point holds potential. You just have to walk through long enough to see it. Psalm 67 is a priestly prayer for nations. It's not personal, it's global. May God be gracious to us and bless us, that your way may be known on earth. It's a song that stretches beyond borders. The earth yields increase. Nations rejoice. Why? Because when God reigns, peace reigns. The lesson? Blessing isn't just for hoarding, it's for spreading. We are blessed to be a blessing, so the earth may sing with us. Psalm 68 is a warrior's procession. God rides through the heavens, enemies scatter, the righteous rejoice. Sing to God, sing praises to his name, Father of the fatherless and protector of widows. But he's not just strong, he's just. God settles the solitary in a home. He leads out the prisoners to prosperity. The lesson? Power in God is never divorced from compassion. He fights for the forgotten. He shelters the wounded. The King of Glory carries both the sword and the heart. Psalm 69 returns to lament. Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. David is drowning in mockery, rejection, pain. I am weary with my crying out. My throat is parched. Yet in the middle of it, he still sings. But as for me, my prayer is to you. The lesson? Tears are not a sign of faithlessness. They're the ink of trust. When you cry to God, even when the answers delay, you're worshiping. Even weeping is holy when directed upward. Psalm 70 is urgent, short, sharp, pleading. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. There's no poetry, just pain, and yet it still ends with praise. Let all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. Even the rushed prayers matter. Even the desperate whispers are heard. The lesson? There is no wrong way to cry out to God. Your groan reaches heaven just as surely as your song. Reflection. What are you whispering that you think God isn't hearing? Can you still worship in the wilderness? Are you willing to let silence refine you? These 10 Psalms remind us, God is not a distant king. He's the Father who hears everything. The God who does not grow tired of your voice. He listens again and again until your silence becomes song. The God who sees me when my brokenness isn't invisible after all. There are seasons when your soul doesn't need an answer. It just needs to be seen, not explained, not fixed, just noticed. And in the Psalms we find a God who does just that. Not a distant monarch watching from the throne, but a Father who bends low and remembers the ache in your bones. Psalm 71 begins in old age. David, now gray and weathered, says, Do not cast me off in the time of old age, forsake me not when my strength is spent. He's not asking to be young again. He's asking not to be forgotten. O God, from my youth you have taught me. So even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me. The lesson? God doesn't discard the worn out. He honors the faithful. Your years aren't wasted. They are woven into his legacy. Psalm 72 is Solomon's prayer for kingship, a cry for justice, for equity, for righteousness to reign. But it reaches beyond politics into prophecy. May all kings fall down before him. May his name endure forever. This psalm isn't just about Solomon. It's about Jesus, the King of Kings, the ruler who doesn't oppress but uplifts. The lesson? True leadership looks like protection, not pride. Those who rule best are those who serve the weakest. Psalm 73 is the crisis of the envious heart. The psalmist admits what many hide. My feet had almost stumbled, for I was envious of the arrogant. Why do the wicked prosper? Why do the proud flourish? But then perspective comes. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then I discerned their end. The lesson? What you see is not always what is. God's justice may be slow, but it is sure. And those who seem untouchable today may be dust tomorrow. Psalm 74 is a national lament. Why, O God, have you cast us off forever? The temple is defiled, the sanctuary destroyed, and yet the psalm doesn't stay in despair. It recalls God's past victories. You divided the sea. You broke the heads of the sea monsters. The lesson? When the present looks hopeless, memory becomes a weapon. Sometimes you win today by remembering what God did yesterday. Psalm 75 flips the narrative. Instead of crying for justice, it proclaims it. At the set time that I appoint, I will judge with equity. God holds the cup. God humbles the arrogant. It is God who executes judgment, putting down one and lifting up another. The lesson? Promotion isn't powered by people, it's released by God. When the time is right, He lifts. Until then, stay low, stay ready. Psalm 76 is battle music. God is known in Judah. His dwelling place has been established in Zion. But this isn't about swords, it's about sovereignty. At your rebuke, O God of Jacob, both rider and horse lay stunned. God wins with words. He silences with whispers. The lesson? You don't need a sword when you serve the one who speaks, and it is done. His voice can disarm armies. His breath can calm wars. Psalm 77 returns to anguish. The psalmist cannot sleep. You hold my eyelids open. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. But even in the unrest he chooses to remember. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Your way was through the sea. The sea wasn't just an obstacle, it was the path. The lesson? Sometimes deliverance doesn't look like escape, it looks like going through. And God will walk with you through waters others drowned in. Psalm 78 is a history lesson, a warning and a call. It recounts Israel's failures, their forgetfulness, their rebellion. And yet it ends with hope. He chose David to shepherd Jacob, his people. The lesson? God doesn't give up on messy stories. He writes redemption even in repetition. And when people fall again and again, He still chooses a shepherd. Psalm 79 is blood and brokenness. Jerusalem lies in ruins. Enemies have defiled the temple, shed innocent blood, mocked God. And yet, David asks not only for revenge but for mercy. Help us, O God of our salvation. Deliver us and atone for our sins. The lesson? Even in devastation, mercy is still the better prayer. Because vengeance doesn't heal wounds, but mercy restores the soul. Psalm 80 is the cry of the vineyard. You brought a vine out of Egypt, but now it is burned with fire. The psalmist begs, restore us, O God. Let your face shine, that we may be saved. He doesn't ask for weapons. He asks for the face of God. The lesson? Sometimes all we need is for Him to look our way, because His gaze brings life. His favor repairs what famine destroyed. Reflection. Do you believe God still sees you in your pain? Are you tempted to envy what looks successful but is hollow? And can you ask for mercy even in ruin? In these Psalms we don't just see a God who rules. We see a God who notices, a God who remembers, restores, and reaches even into the forgotten corners of history. Even when you feel invisible, heaven sees you clearly. When the waiting feels endless, but the promise still stands, sometimes silence feels heavier than suffering, waiting longer than wounding. The ache isn't just in what happened, but in what hasn't. You prayed, you believed, you even worshiped, and still no answer, no breakthrough, only the waiting. But in the Psalms we learn, waiting is not wasting. It is holy ground where promises ferment in the dark. Psalm 81 begins with celebration. Sing aloud to God our strength. But God's voice soon turns to mourning. Oh, that my people would listen to me. He's not asking for applause. He's longing for relationship. He says, I would feed you with the finest of wheat. But they would not hear. The lesson? God's blessings often wait at the door of obedience. He isn't withholding to punish. He's waiting for our return. Psalm 82 shocks with divine confrontation. God stands in the assembly and rebukes injustice. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? He defends the weak, the fatherless, the oppressed. Then it says, they have neither knowledge nor understanding. The world is shaking, not because God is absent, but because we forgot His ways. The lesson? Justice is not a trend. It's God's heartbeat. To ignore the vulnerable is to stand in judgment. Psalm 83 is a cry against enemies, a national intercession. They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation. But the psalm doesn't end in despair. It pleads, let them know that you alone are the Most High over all the earth. The prayer isn't just for protection, it's for revelation. The lesson? God can turn your battles into someone else's awakening. Even those who rise against you may meet him through your endurance. Psalm 84 changes tone completely. It is beauty, desire, longing. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. Even the sparrow finds a home in his presence. Then comes this line, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. The lesson? God's presence is not a luxury, it's survival. Everything else loses luster when you've tasted his nearness. Psalm 85 is a plea for revival. It remembers mercy, you were favorable to your land. You forgave, and then it asks again, will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? It ends with hope. Steadfast love and faithfulness meet, righteousness and peace kiss. Heaven and earth align when God steps in. The lesson? Revival is not thunder, it's reconciliation. When love and truth embrace, joy returns. Psalm 86 is personal. David says, I am poor and needy. Preserve my life. He prays not from pride but from poverty of spirit. Then he declares, there is none like you among the gods, O Lord. Worship rises from the valley. The lesson? Your lowest moment may birth your purest praise. When your heart is broken wide open, heaven hears clearly. Psalm 87 is brief but bold. It speaks of Zion, God's chosen city, and it does something radical. It names outsiders as insiders. Egypt, Babylon, Philistia, enemies, are said to be born in Zion. The Lord records as he registers the peoples, this one was born there. The lesson? God's grace rewrites origin stories. Where you came from doesn't limit where you belong. Psalm 88 is perhaps the darkest in the book. There's no resolution, no rescue. You have put me in the depths of the pit. My companions shun me, you have made me a horror to them. Darkness is my closest friend. There's no but God moment here. Just raw pain. And yet, it's still a prayer. Still addressed to, O Lord, God of my salvation. The lesson? Even unanswered prayers are sacred. God values honesty more than performance. Your lament is worship too. Psalm 89 returns to the promise. It begins with confidence. I will sing of the steadfast love of the Lord forever. It reminds God of his covenant with David. But then, again, disappointment. You have renounced the covenant. You have defiled his crown. It ends not with certainty, but with wrestling. Still, the promise lingers. Blessed be the Lord forever. Amen and amen. The lesson? Faith doesn't deny disappointment. It anchors deeper than it. Even when the promise seems broken, God is still worthy. Reflection. Have you ever felt forgotten in the waiting? Do you know that even silence can be sacred space? Are you still willing to trust when rescue doesn't come quickly? Psalms doesn't give you perfect endings. It gives you true ones, where worship exists in the same breath as weeping, where praise and protest sit side by side, and where faith isn't the absence of pain, but the persistence of trust in the middle of it. The final song, when praise becomes your legacy. There comes a moment in your walk with God when survival gives way to surrender, when you're no longer just asking to be rescued, you're asking to be used. Your scars become testimonies, your tears, seeds, and praise is no longer your escape, it's your offering. Psalm 91 opens with power. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This isn't theory, it's refuge. It's not about a weekend visit to God, it's about dwelling in him, with him, beneath him. No evil will touch your soul, not because the danger disappears, but because he becomes your shield. Lesson? The safest place on earth is not found, it's inhabited. You live under his wings. Psalm 92 is a Sabbath song, a song for rest, not retreat. It is good to give thanks to the Lord, to declare your steadfast love in the morning and your faithfulness by night, worship in rhythm, gratitude as your morning coffee, faith as your lullaby. Lesson? When praise becomes your habit, peace becomes your rhythm. You stop reacting and start resting. Psalm 93 declares God as robed in majesty. The floods lift their voice, but he is mightier. Storms don't silence him, they showcase him. Lesson? Majesty is not measured in absence of chaos, but in authority over it. He sits enthroned above your storm, not beside it. Psalm 94 deals with vengeance, injustice, and questions. How long shall the wicked triumph? The cry of the weary, the unheard. But then it says, when I thought, my foot slips, your steadfast love held me up, and when the cares of my heart are many, your consolations cheer my soul. Lesson? God is not just the judge, He is also your comfort. He balances the scales and cradles your sorrow. Psalm 95 shifts again. Oh come, let us worship and bow down. Then today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Praise isn't always celebration. Sometimes it's invitation, a call to return. Lesson? Worship softens what the world hardens. It reopens the places that pain tried to seal shut. Psalm 96 is a missionary psalm. Declare His glory among the nations, His marvelous works among all peoples. It's not just about personal praise, it's about public witness. Lesson? Your worship was never meant to stay private. It was designed to be heard, seen, and shared. Psalm 97 speaks of fire, lightning, and trembling earth. God reigns in glory, and every idol must bow. The heavens proclaim His righteousness. Lesson? God doesn't just rule with thunder, He governs with righteousness. His power is loud, but His justice is clear. Psalm 98 and 99 are songs of declaration. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth, and exalt the Lord our God. Worship at His holy mountain. They are kingdom choruses. Lessons. Praise doesn't wait for perfection. It arises because of who God is. Even when your heart is cracked, your mouth can still sing. Psalm 100. The finale, the one etched in memory since childhood. Make a joyful noise, serve the Lord with gladness, enter His gates with thanksgiving. But deeper still, know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. Lesson: your identity is not built, it's received. You belong forever because He claimed you first. Reflections: have you let praise become your posture, not just your plea? Is worship your place of hiding or your place of rising? What legacy are you leaving behind? A song, a silence, a stand. The book of Psalms is not a diary, it's a journey, from war cries to wedding vows, from repentance to rejoicing, from how long, O Lord, to forever you are good. And you, yes, you, are part of that legacy. Keep singing, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because every psalm you whisper becomes part of the eternal song that never ends. The Psalms were not written by perfect men. They were written by real ones, kings and fugitives, warriors and worshipers, mothers weeping, shepherds waiting, Levites singing in trembling sanctuaries, and exiles praying by foreign rivers. But in every line, God was there. Through grief, He remained faithful. Through joy, He remained close. Through silence, He still spoke. And through every psalm, He still sings back to you. You've just walked through 100 lessons, but these were never just lessons. They were laments that turned to light, tears that became testimony, and silence that transformed into sacred sound. Maybe you found your voice again. Maybe you saw yourself in David's doubt, or in Asaph's questions, or in the worship that broke out from the shadows. Whatever you found, don't stop here. Let Psalms become your language. Let the cries of others become your courage. Let the ancient words become fresh fire in your mouth. Revisit them, declare them, pray them, share them, because this world doesn't need more noise. It needs the echo of heaven carried by hearts like yours. And if this series blessed you, like, comment amen, and subscribe for more cinematic devotionals like this one. Let's keep going deeper still, because the song isn't over, and neither are you.